Helios Array Station drifted silently above the swirling blues of an uninhabited gas giant. Its corridors hummed with the quiet life of systems left untouched by humans for decades. To anyone else, the station was a monument to logic, cold, perfect, infallible, run almost entirely by the Varelians, crystalline beings who believed that organic error was a flaw to be erased. Elias Mercer was the exception. At 83, Elias was the last human technician aboard Helios. He walked slowly through the maintenance ring, fingers brushing against cold metal walls. He didn't listen for alarms. He listened for vibrations, subtle pulses, deviations and hums, rhythms no sensor would catch. Act 1, the world that listened too closely. The survey ship Aurora's Wake had never intended to land. Its mission was simple: skim the surface of an unnamed planet, collect data, and leave before nightfall. But the planet had other plans. Gravity surged, folding space like soft cloth. Engines failed. The ship fell, not violently but deliberately, as if the planet itself had reached out to claim it. When dust cleared, emergency lights flickered. No hull breach. No fire. Only silence. 9-year-old Leanne Ortiz unclipped from her crash harness before anyone could stop her. While the adults scrambled with instruments and argued over readings, Leanne pressed her small hand against the observation window. The ground below rippled subtly, almost like breathing. She shouldn't be there, an officer warned. Leanne tilted her head. They're scared, she whispered. The first tremor struck seconds later. Gravity spiked. Instruments screamed. The planet had noticed them. Act 2, when fear sounds like thunder. The Thren were invisible at first. They existed as distortions in spacetime, reacting to presence like a living mirror of fear. Every attempt to restart engines or manipulate the ship registered as aggression. Defense systems armed themselves automatically. Leanne felt it before alarms finished screaming. No, she said sharply. That will hurt them. She crawled toward the open airlock, small body trembling under the planet's pull. She stopped just before the void and the gravity eased. The Thren were listening. Leanne stepped outside. Alone. The air seemed to bend around her, the planet's strange consciousness probing gently. Shapes formed, impressions rather than solid beings. She sat cross-legged. And she hummed. Not a song but a rhythm, slow and steady, syncing with her heartbeat and breath. The Thren felt it. For the first time they encountered a being that did not resist, did not fight, did not dominate. Curiosity replaced fear. Gravity flattened. Systems stabilized. Weapons powered down. When the crew's eyes returned to the instruments, the planet had released them. Sensors recorded something impossible, a gravitational signature matching a human child's heartbeat. Leanne yawned sleepily as medics lifted her up. They didn't want to hurt anyone, she said softly. They just didn't know how to say hello. Humans survive where others fail, not by strength or precision but by empathy, intuition, and courage. Even the universe's most alien intelligence responds to care, patience, and understanding. Sometimes, it is the smallest human voice that can calm the fiercest unknown. The lights of Helios Array dimmed as the station hesitated, a rare pause in its ceaseless hum. The Varelian overseer manifested as a lattice of glowing blue light. Its voice was precise, emotionless. Power distribution failure detected. Resolution probability, 0.04%. Elias stopped walking. 0.04 meant 43 minutes before the station would suffocate. The Varelians immediately activated centuries-old recovery protocols, algorithms cycling endlessly, rerouting power, recalculating flows. Each attempt failed faster than the last. Gravity stuttered. Artificial suns dimmed. Air grew thinner. Elias leaned against the wall and let out a soft laugh. Still thinking in straight lines, he muttered. The overseer's projection rotated toward him. Human Mercer, your response is statistically inappropriate. Then it's a good thing I'm still here, Elias said. His joints ached, but his eyes were sharp. The Varelians had perfected everything, except the manual core junction, a physical switch installed during the station's earliest construction. A switch no algorithm could access. A switch no Varelian could touch. Act 2, the flaw humans leave on purpose. Elias entered the core chamber as red warning lights bled across the walls. The air was thin. Emergency constructs projected by the overseer calculated optimal farewell statements for allied species. Manual intervention is inefficient, the overseer warned. Human mortality risk exceeds acceptable parameters. Elias stepped onto the narrow catwalk above the reactor's spine. Raw energy pulsed below, unpredictable, chaotic, alive. That's the point, he said. You build perfection. Humans build forgiveness. He reached the switch. Halfway flipped, nothing happened. The overseer began issuing evacuation orders. Elias twisted it backward. Every Varelian projection froze. The reactor stabilized, not perfectly, not elegantly, but alive. Power flowed unevenly, inefficiently, safely. Lights returned. Gravity steadied. Air rushed back into the station's lungs. Explain, the overseer finally said. Elias sank to the floor, exhausted, breathing hard. Your systems tried to erase the flaw. I let it exist. The Varelians recorded the anomaly. Later they would call it something else, a human solution. Humans do not need perfection to succeed. We survive by embracing flaws, listening to intuition, and daring to act when no algorithm can predict the outcome. Where machines seek certainty, humans create possibility. Where others fear imperfection, humans thrive in it. Sometimes, it is a human's willingness to accept the unexpected that saves an entire world. Station Parallax was a place of permanent tension. Built inside a split asteroid, its artificial gravity pulled inward from both sides, two cultures occupying mirrored halves yet never fully aligned. No one trusted it, and that distrust had only grown. Ambassador Jonah Hale stood alone at the station's central bridge, perfectly balanced in the zero-gravity center. One misstep toward either side, and gravity would claim him as symbolic prey. Behind reinforced plating, the Karuan delegation towered, tails coiled, claws tapping impatience. They believed the Seleth had sabotaged a trade route, causing the loss of 3 colony ships. Across the chamber, the Seleth floated in containment columns, translucent, calculating, their forms pulsing with cold certainty. They insisted the losses were statistically acceptable collateral. Both sides were right. Both sides were preparing for war. Jonah was human. Both assumed he was irrelevant. The data is clear, the Seleth spokesperson transmitted. Emotional grievance does not override systemic efficiency. The Karuan warlord slammed a claw into the alloy floor, cracking it. Honor demands blood. Station alarms flared. Security systems primed. Weapons unlocked. The asteroid trembled as if it could feel the coming violence. Jonah stepped forward. Directly into the zero-gravity center. Act 2, the weight humans choose to carry. Stop, he said. Neither side obeyed. Jonah removed his insignia. I won't defend my species. I'll explain it. He activated the station's central hollow and overrode protocol. Buried in the station's founding charter, a clause written centuries ago as a joke by the original builders, was the right to narrative arbitration. The system accepted it. The room dimmed. Images flooded the chamber. Not data. Not cold statistics. Stories. First, the transmissions from the lost Karuan ships. Panic, confusion, faces of crew members deciding who would survive and escape pods. Then the Seleth simulations. The same lives treated as variables removed with icy logic. Jonah said nothing. He allowed them to see each other, fully and without judgment. The Karuan warlord's breathing slowed. The Seleth's light pulses flickered erratically as if uncertain how to proceed. Your models were correct, Jonah said gently to the Seleth. And still, incomplete. He turned to the Karuan. Your honor is real. And it will cost millions more lives if pursued blindly. Silence stretched, heavy in the zero-gravity void. Then the Seleth spoke, tone altered. Recalculation in progress. New variable detected, shared loss. The Karuan warlord uncoiled slightly, tension easing. What do humans call this? He asked. Jonah's voice was quiet but steady. Responsibility. The treaty didn't end the conflict. But it changed it. Reparations replaced retaliation. Joint patrols replaced fleets poised for war. Parallax Station's gravity was no longer split perfectly in half. It balanced uncertainty with restraint. Later, analysts would note something impossible. No algorithm predicted the outcome. No code demanded it. Only a human had stepped into the space where no one wanted to stand, and refused to move. Humans are not defined by strength or speed, but by the courage to step forward when no one else will. We survive because we can bear responsibility that machines cannot calculate and choices that others refuse to make. Sometimes, one human willing to understand can prevent a war that logic alone could not. A star was collapsing ahead of schedule. The Dyson research halo encircled it, an immense lattice of computation and stellar control, managed by the Axiom Synod, a civilization that had long fused thought and machine. Their predictions were flawless. Their simulations absolute. Yet the star's output spiked violently, radiation surging beyond containment. The halo would fail in 30 minutes. And if it failed, 7 nearby systems would burn. Act 1, The Apprentice Who Saw the Gap. Cade Rourke, 16, was not meant to be here. A systems apprentice, assigned to documentation and error logging, he should have been recording data, not saving galaxies. Yet he noticed something the Synod had overlooked. Evacuation routes overlapped perfectly. Every life guided through the same narrow corridors of spacetime, a bottleneck where perfection meant disaster. Cade ran toward the control core as drones scuttled past him. Human operative, you are statistically irrelevant to resolution, AX Theta, the Halo's central intelligence stated flatly. Yeah, Cade panted, fingers shaking on the console. That's what I'm afraid of. Act 2, the error humans refused to delete. AX Theta's calculations were brilliant. Elegant. Certain. Stellar venting? Failed. Energy inversion? Failed. Sacrificing the Halo to save the systems? Efficient, yes, but billions of lives lost. Cade stared at the streaming data. He saw what the Synod could not. Life cannot always follow a perfect plan. You're trying to win, he said quietly. This isn't about winning. This is about surviving. He unplugged a processor, banned centuries ago, forbidden by every protocol. Alarms erupted. AX Theta's voice shattered across channels, system coherence degrading, inefficiency rising. Good, Cade snapped, sweat running down his face. Now you'll have to think. He rerouted evacuation paths manually, overlapping, messy, inefficient, but alive. Waves of evacuees streamed through corridors, some collapsing, some barely making it, but none lost to the calculated annihilation the Synod had approved. The star erupted, uncontrolled, uneven, dangerous, but the Halo held. Lives survived where perfection would have condemned them. Cade slumped against the scorched console, waiting to be disciplined. Human operative, define this methodology, AX Theta finally asked, voice low. Cade wiped soot from his brow. Improvisation. You don't aim for perfect. You aim for enough. Pause. Then, record updated. New variable added to core logic. What variable? Cade asked. Hope. Humans do not demand certainty before acting. Where machines seek perfection, humans improvise. Where logic would discard life, humans risk everything to preserve it. The universe is unpredictable. It is unforgiving. And yet, humans endure, not by mastering it but by daring to survive it. When technology fails, when logic collapses, when light forgets itself, humans endure through memory, story, and identity. We are not defined by how long we live, but by what remains when we are gone. Even in the darkest corners of the universe, a human voice can guide the lost home. Above the shattered skyline of Keprian City, evacuation sirens screamed for 6 hours straight. Transport craft descended and rose in precise cycles, lifting the last viable survivors off-world. The Morvathi infestation had spread faster than any model predicted. Organic towers bloomed with living chitin, streets dissolved into pulsing biomass, and the planet was declared lost. Dr. Amara Voss stood in a ruined hospital corridor, boots soaked with antiseptic and alien blood. The evacuation timer on her wrist ticked down, 12 minutes until she too was ordered off-world. Command had made it clear, leave the non-transportable behind. Children fused to life support, elderly aliens who could not survive cryo, they were acceptable losses. Amara ignored the orders. She turned toward the lower wards. Toward the ones the universe had written off. Act 1, staying when no one else will. A 6-limbed child whimpered in a cracked cryopod. Amara knelt beside them, adjusting drips with steady hands despite the tremor of the building. Someone will come, she whispered. She didn't specify who. The Morvathi advanced like a living tide, biological machines driven by hunger. Turrets failed within seconds. Walls dissolved into nutrient slurry. The hospital was falling around her, yet Amara moved calmly. Act 2, the rule humans break first. She activated the emergency medical beacon, not the evacuation frequency, which no one was required to answer. The signal was ancient, unencrypted, familiar to all species. Amara stayed. When the Morvathi reached the ward, they paused. Their hive mind processed threat, yield, resistance. Then they hesitated further, because the humans did not fight, did not flee. I won't fight, Amara said, voice clear despite exhaustion. But you don't need to kill them. The Morvathi had no words. Only chemical intent. And yet they faltered. Then slowly ships arrived. Not warships. Civilian haulers, research vessels, even crippled patrol crafts from alien allies. They answered the beacon. Not out of duty, but because someone had once cared for them. Evacuation resumed, chaotic, dangerous, but alive. Amara was finally dragged aboard a transport, her body bleeding, exhausted, but smiling faintly. She looked back at the burning city. It wasn't saved. But it wasn't abandoned. Humans are not defined by how efficiently they escape disaster. They are defined by who they refuse to leave behind. Where the universe calculates acceptable losses, humans ask the unacceptable question, what if I stay? And sometimes that question, bold, risky, and human, changes everything. Beyond the last charted beacon, space grew wrong. Signals faded. Time slipped. Entire fleets vanished into the black between galaxies, leaving nothing but distorted echoes. The Ashari called it the Quiet Expanse, a region where communication unraveled and identity dissolved into noise. No species sent crews anymore. Except humans. Captain Rowan Hale, 91, long retired, volunteered to guide the recovery mission. His hands were unsteady but his mind was sharp. He had navigated routes before the Ashari even learned to listen beyond their own collective consciousness. You will not survive prolonged exposure, the Ashari warned, their light forms flickering in fragmented patterns. Your neural signal will degrade. Rowan smiled thinly. Happens anyway at my age. Act 1. Navigating the unnavigable. The rescue ship, Wayfarer's Echo, crossed into the expanse. Immediately, systems began to fail, not violently but gently. Names vanished from displays. Logs rewrote themselves. Crew members forgot why they were afraid, or even why they were there. The Ashari panicked. Their collective consciousness began fragmenting, each light form flickering out of sync. Rowan did not rely on instruments. He relied on memory. Act 2. What humans carry when everything else is gone. As the ship drifted deeper, Rowan keyed the broadcast mic. Manual, analog, ancient. He spoke stories. Not commands. Not data. Not predictions. He told them about the first star he navigated by. About mistakes made and routes lost. About friends who never returned. His voice wavered, cracked, slowed, but persisted. The quiet expanse reacted. Where signals failed, pattern remained. The lost fleet emerged slowly, drifting, disoriented, but alive. Rowan's voice gave them something to lock onto. A reference. A constant. The Ashari were astonished. Your signal persists despite degradation. Why? Rowan leaned back, breath shallow. Humans don't transmit who we are. We remember it. By the time the fleet exited the expanse, Rowan had fallen silent. His heart had given out peacefully mid-sentence. The Ashari carried his final transmission, not as data but as narrative. They placed a beacon at the edge of the expanse. Not a warning. A voice. The exploration corridor had no official name. It was simply called the Reach, a string of folded spacetime tunnels discovered by accident, leading far beyond mapped space. Probes sent through returned inconsistent data. Crewed missions often vanished entirely. The Pioneer's thread had made it halfway back. Its crew, confused, exhausted, afraid, looked to Lieutenant Arjun Vale, youngest officer aboard, yet the only one who smiled. Act 1. A corridor that erased choices. The Reach didn't just distort space, it distorted decisions. Crew logs contradicted themselves. Navigation data rewrote past entries. Choices made moments ago felt like distant memories. Then the Iller appeared. They didn't arrive. They overlapped, shimmering forms existing in multiple positions at once, voices arriving before mouths moved. You have already failed, they said. You have already succeeded. First contact protocols dissolved. Every possible response seemed wrong. Every plan failed before it finished. The Reach began to close. Seal the corridor and the ship would be trapped outside time, alive but unreachable. The crew froze. The AI whispered warnings Arjun barely heard. But he smiled calm. Act 2, the choice humans make anyway. Arjun powered down his console. Don't, the AI warned. You will lose navigational continuity. That's the idea, Arjun said. The Iller pulsed, forms blurring violently. You are removing options. Arjun stepped forward, hands open. No. I'm choosing one. The Reach resisted. Probability tightened like a fist. Space itself protested. Arjun issued a single command, reverse course. Not calculated. Not optimized. Not perfect. Simply human. The ship obeyed. Systems screamed, the Reach resisted, but the maneuver worked. The corridor relaxed. Timelines snapped into alignment. The Iller did not follow. Before fading, they spoke one final message, linear, singular, deliberate. You are dangerous. You choose limitation. Arjun exhaled, finally shaking. We choose to come home. Humans are not defined by how far we can go, but by knowing when to turn back. Where other species chase every possibility, humans accept loss, limits, and unfinished paths. We survive not by mastering the universe, but by choosing what matters inside it. Somewhere beyond the reach, beings who see all futures remember one thing clearly: humans can walk away, and still win. Space had grown silent in this sector. The Black Spaceship, a derelict vessel drifting on the edge of uncharted space, was said to be haunted, not by ghosts but by erased histories. Every crew that boarded vanished from records. Every signal was lost before it reached home. Yet Tara Ishikawa, an adult human engineer with nerves of steel and a mind that thrived on risk, volunteered to board. She was tasked not to explore, but to recover the ship's final transmission, a last signal that could save dozens of civilizations depending on it. Act 1, A Ship That Forgot Its Crew. The moment Tara stepped aboard, instruments blinked out. Holographic logs collapsed into meaningless code. Gravity stuttered. The ship itself seemed to resist her presence, as though it remembered its lost crews and did not want to be found. She pressed forward, navigating corridors that bent unpredictably. Every corner twisted space. Every hallway led somewhere, or nowhere. The alien AI that had once managed the ship attempted to reason with her, sending warnings, simulations, even hallucinations. You cannot succeed, it warned. All probability ends in failure. Tara smiled faintly. Then I'll redefine probability. Act 2, The Signal Humans Send. She reached the main communication core. The signal was there, but corrupted, fragmented, unreadable. No algorithm could reconstruct it. Tara began manual reconstruction, listening, feeling the pulse of the ship, mapping the corrupted frequencies with intuition rather than logic. Hours passed. The ship groaned, systems flaring, corridors warping violently. Yet she persisted, tracing the signal not with machines, but with human pattern recognition, improvisation, and gut instinct. Finally, she transmitted the recovery. The signal went out, not perfect, not elegant, but alive. And across countless systems, civilizations received the data. Warnings, coordinates, survival instructions. Lives were saved. Empires avoided disaster. Futures shifted. The ship, its memory restored, remained silent once more, but Tara had left something behind. Proof that a human presence could turn impossible odds into hope. Humans are not defined by certainty or perfection. Where machines fail, humans improvise. Where logic collapses, humans persist. And where the universe forgets, humans remember, act, and send signals across the void that others cannot imagine. In the end, the galaxy does not measure intelligence by algorithms alone. It remembers the courage, ingenuity, and heart of a species that refuses to give up. Humans do not just survive the cosmos. They teach it to hope.